Hey guys, here we are with a scentless September shave. At least it'll be scentless to me. I really enjoy the scent from Marlborough, so perhaps I should choose to use Windsor or Almond, one of the lesser, not quite as favorite soaps from D.R. Harris. However, it just doesn't use up very much product, so big deal, right? And so I do really enjoy the scent on this one when I can smell. And this one came up as next in the list with you guys voting. Thank you so much for the ones that have chimed in. And if you want to look in my history of my videos here, just a couple back, you'll see the voting video where you can go in. There'll be a link in the comments to where you can vote for the soap bases as we play around with bases that just don't have a much scent, and so I don't use them very much when I can normally smell. Well, since I can't smell, let's revisit. This one was we already did Sterling Sheep, and we did Velabra. And so D.R. Harris, and it's not Dr. Harris, it's D.R. Harris. They do make a cream, and D.R. Harris is one of the few where the cream or the crope that they have is not. Wait, I want to get my data right. The hard pucks here are not outsourced to another company. Trumper, George F. Trumper, Truefit and Hill, Taylor Bond Street, they outsource the three T's there in the UK. They outsource their hard puck production to another company. And so you're mainly paying for the scent that they've developed there and the name, and the performance just kind of it's a little bit lacking compared to historical performance when they would do it in-house. And yep, sure enough, no smell. And I would be happy if I just had a few different D.R. Harris soaps to go back and forth from, and that was my entire collection. Wonderful scents, sophisticated. They were put together with intelligence, and very interesting is how I find them. And I find the performance pretty nice. It hasn't been used in a long time, so we're going to load for a longer time, like 45 seconds, something like that, I think. Let's show you the other gear. My Lather Games prize for the 2021 Lather Games is this carbon shaving razor in titanium. Can you believe that? A very generous gift to the competition by the folks at Carbon. And I, shortly thereafter, after winning it, he advised me maybe that the Plus base plate is the one that might fit me well. And I used it once before I kind of had to lock into a razor for all of September. And it might be a little more aggressive than I might like. And so let me show you the two plates here. This is the Plus plate that he sent along. And in here is the minus plate. Now, obviously we've got some differences here. I don't know if he has his plates in different styles, and so if maybe there's another minus plate out there that resembles this but just says minus on it and it has a lower gap, but in any case, this is the used one that came available. And since I had just won one of these, I thought, well, that's perfect timing. And so I bought it used, and man, these things just feel like you're holding nothing in your hand. This titanium, you can see the low profile. Boy, these things just have a my head is having a hard time wrapping itself around the feel of such light and strong things like that. I'm going to use a feather. I haven't used, I finally got out my little blade container that's been dormant for a month and a half, maybe almost 2 months. And that's how I keep my working blades, the ones that I'm in the process of using. And this guy's pretty young. He's only got 3 approximately uses on him. And since I'm going to use the mild base plate, I figure, normally I don't put a feather in the razor when it's brand new. I like to get a feel for it first. But in this case, since it's a mild base plate, I bet we'll be all right. In fact, even when I told the nice guy at Carbon Shaving that I liked mild shaving experience, and I told him all the different settings that I liked when you're thinking about variable razors, adjustables and variable plate razors. He still recommended the Plus, and so this one could be too mild, but who knows? We're going to find out. It still looks like it has some positive exposure, and so I'll bet it's not going to be too mild for me there. All right, that'll be fun to try. Coming soon is also going to be my 7th generation Pearl Flexi. All right. And also more gear. I didn't really introduce it all at once like I usually do. This is a new brush that arrived recently. It's a cane brush. The cane is kind of the name of the handle here. And obviously to resemble a peppermint candy cane. This is my one and only brush actually done by Scott Stewart of Declaration Grooming. It's now I have a few other Declaration brushes, but they're in other non-Declaration handles, and I'm fine with that. These are sometimes more expensive, and so the handle just doesn't matter as much to me. But why I bought this guy was because of that knot right there. This is the B4, and B4 knots are not exactly easy to come by, and so when this one came up on the used market, I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. So that's what we're going to be using today. It measures somewhere around maybe 27 millimeters in diameter, but it sure looks like maybe it's going to feel like a bigger knot. I bet I'm going to really enjoy it. D.R. Harris feather inside of a carbon shaving with a mild base plate, and then the B4 brush from Declaration Grooming. Excellent. And yeah, I believe we're ready to go. I'm gonna get my face wet. So let's load up here. I've had the brush soaking for several minutes. These tips have been treated, and so they do like to have some water. They like to sit in water for a little while. You see how they clump up like that? The high mountain whites don't tend to do that because they're not quite as treated. And the tips absorb water, and then that's how they provide such a soft feel. Whereas other badger brushes may not absorb water in the tips, and so they might have a firmer tip feel or just a non-spongy tip feel, that sort of thing. It varies depending on the level of exposure that these tips have had to the bleaching agent or whatever type agent was used. Let's do 45. 55 rolled around. That's a nice even number. So we'll go to the 40-second mark on the next minute. It's funny how quickly that time will pass. This is a triple milled soap, I believe, and so the puck is not nearly as large as a sterling container of Crope, but because it's so compact and the soap lasts a long time, you're probably going to get just tons of shaves from one refill puck. And this is the wooden container that you can often buy with D.R. Harris stuff. You don't have to buy the wooden container. You can save money and just buy a refill puck and put it in a container of your own choosing if you want. So that's what it looks like after 45 seconds. Looks pretty normal. Got some frothy stuff come up right away, and so I bet that's going to be good. I'm going to take some of this extra stuff. You know what my stubble feels like right now? Because the shave I did recently yesterday with the spoiler and the Wolfman, it cut me so cleanly out. My stubble feels different than it has when the Nasset has been the shaver. Isn't that wild? Kind of normal. I mean, it's to be expected since the Nasset's just not cutting as crisply because it's smoothed out, right? It's not the type of cut that it makes is not as flat, I would guess. So, all right, wiping off the side of the container here. There's certain oils you can treat your wooden containers with if you want to try to preserve them. Opinions vary on what's the best one to use. You can do your reading. All right. yeah, we can go ahead and start working the lather out. The brush is huge. The knot here, just visually, it's huge. The handle is a little smaller in person, and I'm going to be interested to see how it feels, because the in relation to the we'll call this the butt or the heel, there's the saddle or the valley right here. There's not a big change in distance. It's a small change. And so what happens is, see, there's kind of wiggle room where the base here is not securely grabbed, because my hands are big, and so I think what I'm gonna have to do is push it to one side, change my grip a little bit. We'll see how that goes. I'm interested to see that. Finally experiencing what guys who buy those, and I don't have any declaration handles, right? Because I can never get in on any of those drops. They sell out so quickly. I just quit trying. Now right here, just about every handle works well, and this one is working well because my grip is like this, and so I've got plenty of surface area contacting the handle. Red's not usually a color, but I like this one pretty good. It's a very interesting pour. It's a big knot. I don't think it's going to be floppy though. Very few of Declaration's knots are going to have any flop to them. So it might be a really wonderful blend of just enough backbone with really soft tips. My other B4 knots have that. Look how big that thing is getting here. Display as it fills up with the lather. And with this knot being so big, I'm very glad I have a nice large lather bowl right here. This would really knock the lather out of like the fine accoutrements bowl or the regular size Captain's Choice bowl. Those things. It might even render the large Captain's Choice bowl a little tricky to work with. I've added a 15 milliliters of water, something along those lines, a little bit more than that. And the lather looks a little on the thin side, but that's kind of intentional, because we're kind of trying to equalize and extract the soap out of the knot to have it combine with the water to form the lather. And if all that has already happened, then this amount of water is, if it stays kind of liquidy, then this amount of water is going to be a lesson for me. It's going to tell me, hey, go back and load get a little bit more soap. Go back and load for more time. I'm not pushing down very hard. This is just kind of naturally splaying pretty large. And yeah, we've got some bubbles. Let's feel the texture right now. Nice and slick, but definitely not providing too much resistance to the squeezing, which is kind of what I think maybe most people mean by cushion. And it's not like that's a bad thing at all, but I think I want a little bit more cushion in here. I think I want a little bit more product in here, more soap. And so what I'm going to do is this knot holds a lot of lather. I think I would like a little bit more margin there. And so I'm going to add some more water. You know what? Let's put 25 milliliters of water in there. And for a hard soap, hard soaps usually require more water than cropes, for instance. And so what I'm doing now is something I've spoken about a few times, where I'm almost, perhaps adding enough water to to injure the lather, to make it too thin. And if it does turn out to be that way, I'll just load some more soap. Or sometimes you add the right amount of water in there and it wakes up more soap. It somehow finds more soap and it activates the soap. Some kind of magical experience like that, and then bam, you've got this perfect lather. Now what's happening is I'm still seeing kind of some bubbles, and the way I'm watching it behave, it's very liquidy. So yes, we are gonna, let's load for like 10 or 15 more seconds. Let's just say 15. And since I raked a lot of the brush isn't wet like it was when I first loaded. So what I'm going to do is just take some water, some dribbles here, and just dribble it on top of the puck to kind of to help everything out. So 15 seconds we'll do. Not putting a lot of pressure on it because I feel like it'll just kind of splay and go nuts if I do, and won't really be as effective. All right, that's 15 seconds. Now see, the early lather right here is more more thick than before, so we're probably on the right track. Yeah, nice slick stuff. And so we've got a lather that's too wet, and then we just added some soap to. And so we'll just mix it for a little bit to equalize everything. And what I'm expecting to see is some of these bubble holes to disappear, for the texture to change to be not quite as drippy and fluid. You could definitely go the other way, where if you start to think that maybe you need to go back and load more, that you could just load more before you add the water. No problem doing that. Whatever floats your boat. Yes, and this lather has definitely turned more creamy. It's not as fluid as it was before. So this guy got a good many votes from you guys, sometimes being a high favorite vote from certain people, and then sometimes being a regular positive vote. It is one of the, I think, one of the nice soaps that's available on Amazon. Amazon has a bunch of junk soaps out there, but there are a few, like Aloe, which is pretty good. Barrister and Man used to be on Amazon. I think Katie's Bubbles used to be. I think they might still be. They're a good performer. And D.R. Harris should probably still be on Amazon. We do have some micro bubbling going on. That is something that some soap bases do. I don't think it makes a difference in terms of, it can still feel creamy even if you see a lot of little micro bubbles. And I don't know if you can tell, but volume has definitely increased now, because the bit of soap that we had in the brush, the extra additional soap, is now turned into lather with the extra water that was in the bowl. Yeah, this looks good. Oh yeah, look at that big old guy. And look, he's kind of fluid. He's got kind of he does retain a little bit of his shape as he falls into the bowl. You know, maybe I could take this guy a little bit more wet, but you know what? Because of the kind of micro bubbling and stuff, I think I'm gonna assume that maybe this guy doesn't like to be taken quite just super elastic, and let's kind of keep him right where he is right now. I know we've got tons of lather to get the shave done here. I'm so looking forward to getting these tips on my face. All right. Get some water on me too. My personal COVID update, I'm doing all right. Feeling pretty good in general. Just a little bit extra more fatigued than usual. And one of those cases where I feel like I've got some light flu symptoms, some congestion, and that, that kind of cough where, frequent coughing, but the kind where you kind of feel it in there and you breathe in enough and then you have to kind of cough to get it out. I think some of you allergy sufferers might be a little familiar with that kind. And that is something that I do deal with when I don't have COVID on a regular basis, just not quite this bad. All right, B4 knot, it's huge. I mean, really, we might as well just call this guy a 28 millimeter knot. He is just phenomenally huge. Yeah, very soft tips here. So we'll see if my guess at the water ratio is right. Now, big knots like this, something I don't often mention on my channel because it's not relevant for me. I shave with just water that comes out of the tap, the cold water. And so in the winter, it's actually very cold. In the summer, it's, more lukewarm. Oh, look. Yeah, this guy could use more water. See how I can tell? Is all this, it's feeling creamy on my face, but all this extra stuff here on the sides, around my goatee. And so I use cool water, tap water, when I shave. But the big badger knots are very nice if you want to use warm water. If you want to be that kind, I find that the cool water is just wonderfully refreshing and it's not shocking at all. It's room temperature by the time I, am rinsing with it and that sort of thing. But it's very calming to inflammation, and instead of hot water, which it would exacerbate inflammation. Get some razor burn, man. The room temperature water or cooler than that water is a wonderful way to just very casually help to soothe that. All right, so I'm going to take off this extra here. We'll just load up a little more. And so these badger knots have been touted for years as being superior for warmer water shavers. I will caution you not to use hot water. Number one, hot water can kill a lather, but also can kill a brush. To have that high hot temperature water get to the brush knot, the glue ball that holds everything together, and that causes changing of size of the glue knot, then you can see how that might cause those hairs that are stuck down in the glue knot to potentially loosen up over time and have it become a knot that's shedding on you. You don't want that. Again, we've gathered up some around the goatee. All right, yeah, it's a big knot. It's not being floppy. It is, I'm experiencing the tips in a nice soft way. So very enjoyable there. I think I will put a little bit more water in the bowl. So now we're down to about maybe 30, 31 milliliters of water used for this shave. And here we go. Here we go with the carbon titanium razor with the mild base plate. My prize for my Lather Games win. Very cool, very generous of carbon to do that. Ah, now this is nicer. You do hear that scrapey kind of sound, and so I don't think we're looking at a whole lot of blade support right up toward the edge. However, feels nice. Some people like this kind of feel. I mean, I hear that sound, you know, kind of that scrapey sound. And some people associate it with their shaving, and so that's something they look forward to. Now, what I can do also sometimes is I can change my style a little bit, because right now I'm applying pressure to both the base plate and the top cap at the same amount to kind of have a balanced approach with it. That's the way I start out with most razors. If a razor starts to feel really aggressive when I do that, a very common thing to do is to lessen the pressure on the safety bar by raising the handle farther away from your skin, which makes a smaller angle for the blade versus your skin. And some people call that riding the cap, because you're putting more weight and distribution on the cap of the razor instead of the safety bar. All right, well, that moved through the hair pretty nicely. Definitely didn't feel too aggressive in that first pass. We are dealing with a normal 24 hours of growth, normal kind of amount of stubble. And so what I'm very curious about is how this feels when I get toward the end of the shave. It could potentially give me maybe some tenderness or irritation because of that. So we'll see. Now, a lot of times, even if you do nothing to the lather between the first and second pass, if you're a person who's like me and you rinse between passes, then there will be that extra water that passes on, and your lather will be slightly more hydrated for that second pass. So sometimes if that first one has a lather that's just a little bit less hydrated, I won't even add any water, because I know that'll just kind of happen naturally. Yeah, I like this lather. I went ahead and combined this is a big brush. I went ahead and combined the extra water that I had added with the lather that was already in the bowl. This has got a lot of play, a lot of splay to it. I think, my guess would be this would not be in Scott's standard these days. The B4 was a while back, and so he may not have had, this may have been like a custom knot set where the guy said, I want a lot of loft, you know? Now for me, that's kind of what I would want. I'm looking forward to more uses with this one, especially for the backbone that the declaration hairs usually have. I like a higher lofted than standard for sure. Yeah, it feels very nice on my face. Oh yeah, a wonderful creaminess here to the touch. That's very, very nice. Yeah, that's terrific. All right, so as we have taken down a large amount of the stubble, let's see how this feels as we deal with shaving closer to the skin now. We don't hear as much activity from the kind of the blade chatter because we don't have as much stubble there. Man, it's like I'm using a surgical instrument. It's just so light and nimble. Now I am enjoying this feel a lot more than I enjoyed that first pass. You just don't get that same kind of scrapey feel because most of the stubble is out of the picture now. And this is the mild head. I would probably consider passing on this razor to somebody else, probably trading it because it was a gift, and so I wouldn't sell it if at all possible. I'd probably find somebody with another wonderful razor or brush that I was just really, looking forward to having, and then just trading, kind of honoring the gift of the of carbon. Nice protection from the lather here. You still could have some more water in it, I think. And I don't really need to do any more, kind of touch-ups or anything. You know what? I can do a whole pass with just that goatee lather. Let's do that. Nice proof of concepts. You don't need a ton of lather. It's already got this micro level of slickness is all over my skin. And that is what you want. That's the business end. Even if you have a half an inch of lather on your face, what's right up close to your skin, that's what matters the most. That's what has to work well. Okay, we'll do cross grain again, and I will pay attention to the way it feels, and I might ride the cap a little bit. Man, it's very comfortable here. Now, if you kind of associate that first scrapiness with a nice close shave, then it's interesting to, I can see how a person would be a big fan of feeling the stubble change. And I mean, this audio feedback, as it has reduced it, you know that my stubble is gone. And you can almost look forward to hearing the experience change and feeling that kind of scrapiness switch to the smoothness that I'm experiencing now. There is a bump in my skin, or this is also an area where the normal non-shavable area begins, and so that's a very common area for me to stir up a little bit of irritation. So the mild plate seems to have given me a nice close shave, and this one definitely seems more to be along the lines of what I might prefer. And while the scrapiness of the first pass was not really all that enjoyable for how I like to shave, when that stubble was gone, that second and third pass were just a very good experience. So I definitely could see how a person like me would have a different opinion about this razor as they all of a sudden realize that the feel is different after that first pass. All right, I did generate just a touch of tenderness, but not too bad. It should be gone in maybe 15 minutes or something like that. Today I'm going to use Thayers Witch Hazel, unscented and alcohol-free. I want to find some Thayers that has the alcohol, because I've come to learn, and this is another Amazon product, the Thayers, that's a good product that's available on Amazon. As a natural witch hazel extraction process involves the use of the alcohol, and so you'll have a higher witch hazel content if you buy the witch hazel with the alcohol in it. That was very comfortable on the skin, and it's not something you have to rinse off, unlike alum. Got to make sure to rinse that off. And I like the witch hazel especially for the summer months or hot months when it doesn't quite have the thickness of a balm. I don't know if I just happened to, that last bit of loading, that 15 seconds that I got, if it just pulled up a lot more soap than I needed it to, or if I had the right amount at the beginning, maybe a blend of the two. Maybe I only needed to load for another 5 seconds or 10 seconds. But I mean, I have got a ton, and this lather is tremendous. Look at that. That's awesome. So this is a nice high performance lather, and so with this nice hard puck, you'll get a lot of shaves, and you'll have nice lather from DR Harris. And here we are with this big old soft brush after it's been towel stropped with these dense knots. Make sure to get in there with a lot of water. Give it a good long, extra long rinse time with such dense brushes like these. That is good. for this shave. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I'm sure there's been something good in here for you. I look forward to more uses with this razor for sure. Take care now.